Remind me to never sleep on the couch with that big of a headache without cough drops ever again. I don't even know who I'm fucking talking to. Whatever, it's a brand new day. The birds are singing, the air is clear, the sky is as blue as— Is that a plane?
I didn't say there'd be no survivors this time.
My house! Also, Boone? Wait, am I even in my continuity?
You have a continuity?
We're in a continuity.
Forget what I said. Why did you crash a plane to my house?
You didn't want to give final thoughts for a commentary.
On what?
Funny you should mention that. It was on you.
Apparently, your most recent commentary sparked enough ire from one Blaze the movie fan.
Blaze the movie fan? Didn't I commentate on him once before?
I think so.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Those were good times. Anyways, may I see this commentary?
Do whatever you want with it. We have a plot to continue.
For you. Why'd I say that? That was stupid. Hey, remind me to never say that again, please. Thanks.
Hey, is anyone gonna fix my house?
No.
Well, Embor's a better starter anyways. Now what am I gonna do? TP, stop everything! Who are you, and why are you using Mimi? I'm you, from the future. Wait, how far into the future? I don't know, like October? Which is about when this commentary will come out. Wait, you're telling me I have to wait 6 months to release this? Well, maybe you shouldn't have left your computer in the plane's way. Anyways, I'm here to give context. The next 6 months show support for this commentary, despite the time between this video and Blaze's. Oh, also you updated your Avatar folder, you hacking heck. Well, do go on. So, context. Last April Fool's Day, I made my most recent video. Can I go to the bathroom? Shut up, TP! I made my most recent video on Tamashii Hiroka, and it has since become my most viewed commentary. I kinda wish it wasn't. If only because the reason it's got as many views as it has is because it attracted Tamashii fans. Many of whom are not willing to accept the fact that I covered a YouTuber they liked and not judge the video based on actual quality. However, before shit really hit the fan, we had Blaze the movie fan, who did a commentary on that video. It really didn't contribute to my commentary's infamy, but it's there. Now if this intro skit didn't give you the hint, I'm not the first person to cover this video. I'm not even the second. Might not even be the third. However, I don't think that should really matter, as I can always bring up new points or add on to arguments previously made. Plus, Blaze himself has stated that despite knowing that his points are flawed, he still stands by them, and that alone should give this commentary enough validation. But in the case that it wasn't, I also went to Blaze the movie fan as well and brought up the idea of covering him, and he was actually in support of the idea. He even recently messaged me about it, asking if I was still going to do the commentary. So Blaze, thank you for your patience, here you go. Wow, you have quite a bit of information on the subject. Hey, why don't we go and he fucking ditched me? Yeah, screw you too. Or should it screw me too? Fuck, I'm confused.
Hey guys, what's up? This is my motherfucking bike.
I get one call back, guys.
Now let me assure you that I am not making this commentary because it happens to be on a commentary of someone I like. I mean, hell, I think Master TP10's commentaries on Tamashii's video on Overrated Pokemon and Mega Evolutions are fucking awesome. Because those two videos were very bad videos by Tamashii.
But my problem with this particular commentary is the fact that Tamashii's video on Pikachu clones isn't even a bad video.
And that matters how? I've covered videos in the past that I didn't think were all that bad. The Mike Johnson video I covered a year ago is a prime example of a video I thought was flawed, but not terrible. And it's even more noteworthy of an example when you remember that I also did a commentary on a commentary done on Mike's video. Were my points during those videos invalid then? That makes no logical sense. A point shouldn't stand or fall based on what you think of the original video, especially since opinions on a video can go either way. What about the people that thought Tamashii's list was bad? Is my commentary good because of those people? Hey, how about instead we just judge me? Thinking about it more, I don't know if I want that. And if I can snap back to reality for just a moment, part of the inspiration for the PSA I recently did was because of this comment. Was Blaze the movie fan the only person to do this? No, but if a primary problem with my video shouldn't logically be a problem in the first place, it doesn't say a lot about my video being as ugly as you want to make it out to be. I seem to have an addiction to bad Pokemon countdowns, and I think I'll need to see a therapist someday.
Yeah, your therapist just called and told me to tell you that your problem isn't obsession with bad Pokemon countdowns. Your problem is your obsession with fucking Tamashii.
Wait, fucking Tamashii? Who are you? And who exactly do you call anyways? Of all the things to still be working.
Yeah, TP, you seem to have this really huge issue with wanting to have the sex with Tamashii. I kindly urge you to.
Hey, who are you?
I'm the therapist.
Well, this isn't your office.
Maybe you're lost?
Get out of here, faker!
Faker? I think you're the fake therapist around here. You comparing yourself to me? Ha! You're not even good enough
I'll
to
make
be
you eat
my
those words.
Oh.
And in every generation of Pokemon games, Game Freak has tried to capitalize on this by introducing a Pikachu clone to try to sell the new games.
When has a Pikachu clone ever been used to try and promote a new generation? Or at least enough to be considered an actual influence on why the generation got anywhere?
Well, in the Pokemon anime, at least one of the protagonists has a Pikachu clone. With an exception of Flurzel and Minion.
And Pichu. I'll still debate whether it deserves to be on the list, but the fact is, Pichu was still on Tamashii's list, and none of the main protagonists in the anime have ever owned a Pichu.
And the Pokemon anime is used to promote the games. That's probably what's in man.
Yes, the anime promotes the games, but this doesn't make everything that relates to a main character a major selling point. And in regards to the anime, Pachirisu and Amoga were very easily overshadowed by almost every other Pokemon on either Dawn's or Iris's team, notably Dawn's Piplup, Dawn's Mamoswine, Dawn's Baneri, Iris's Axew, Iris's Excadrill, and Iris's Dragonite. Of the Pika clones owned by a main character, the only one with any relevance might be Dundana, and that's only thanks to Bonnie carrying it around a la Piplup and Axew, and even that's debatable to actual relevance. Yet despite how little these Pika clones meant to the anime, the fact that Plus and Minum have even smaller roles than every other Pokemon on the list should indicate that either her number ones are missing something that would make them better mascots, or that she didn't consider the anime much for her list altogether. And given that the only segment it's ever brought up in was during Pichu's, I'm pretty positive that at least one of these is the case. And if somehow what you said was what she meant, she did a piss poor job at communicating that to her audience, so that would still be on her head. Your little hypothetical is worth less than what's left of my house.
So how well does each Pikachu lookalike represent its game? Today we're gonna rank all 5 of the Pikachu spawned and find out. But first, a little background on Pikachu.
This is filler. That's all this part is. This adds nothing in regards to what comes later. Even if it's just fun trivia, it wouldn't be nearly as egregious if you connected this to something else in the video other than, "Hey you, Pikachu!"
This is nitpicking, plain and simple. Not everybody is a fucking expert on Pokemon like you or Master TP10.
You're correct in saying that not everyone would know that Clefairy was initially going to be the face of Pokemon, but that's not what I was arguing. You don't need to be a Pokemon expert to identify that this could have been removed, and the remainder of Tamashii's list would have remained the exact same. Clefairy and how it was almost the franchise's mascot are never mentioned again for the rest of her list. The kicker? Outside of the term Pika clone or bringing up how Pichu evolves into it, neither is the Pokemon the video is named after. And nitpicking implies that was a small part of her video. Her little bit of trivia takes up 45 seconds out of her 7-minute video, when over 10% of her video was dedicated to something that had no relevance to the countdown it's connected to. How is calling that out a nitpick? Maybe you could argue that the way it went about it made it seem like a bigger point than what it actually was, but A, you don't, B, I never brought it up in the original commentary past this point, and C, the other half of the interjection was spent more on a joke anyways, so what's your deal?
You have to keep in mind that Tamashii gets thousands of views on her videos. And there is a high chance that someone who isn't too familiar with Pokemon can stumble across her videos.
I mean, hell, I'm a huge Pokemon fan myself, and even I found that information to be very useful.
Yes sir, I'd like to apply for a job here at Best Buy.
Well, Mr. 10, before we consider hiring you, let me ask you one question. What would you bring to the staff?
Hey, did you know that Pikachu was initially going to be Ash's starter?
Mr. 10, what kind of practical joke is this?
See, Mr. Employer, sir, I was told that Ash starting off with Clefairy was useful information.
In what land? Iceland?
Maybe. and that is why I'm banned from Utah. Thanks, Blaze! If you want to defeat my point, connect that entire bit of trivia to a later part of her video. Don't just cry out it's useful and call it a day. Useful information does not equate to relevant information. I can show something on screen about the capitals of every state in the US. That doesn't mean it has a place in a video about electric rodent Pokemon.
So certainly they could come up with something interesting for its mascot to really represent all these features, right?
Okay, I just have to stop you right there. Have you not read the definition of mascot? A person, animal, or object uses a symbol to represent a group, such as a sports team, and to bring good luck. That's how Merriam-Webster defines it. And with this in mind, how is Pachirisu a mascot? Pikachu, yes. Even without the clones, it's one of the most iconic Pokemon out there. And, well, it's called a Pika clone for a reason. Pachirisu? Hell, pretty much every other Pika clone too. No, none are symbols or represent anything.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree that Tamashii does abuse the word mascot in this video. But here's the thing, that's the only problem that I have with Tamashii's video.
Good for you, now here's my thing. Just because someone has more problems than what you had doesn't mean they should be discredited because they don't share your viewpoint on the same subject matter. It makes it sound less like I'm wrong because I'm factually incorrect, and more because I didn't conform to the same opinion as Tamashii. Excuse me, may I please get away with not being a communist? I'm already wearing red, what more do you want from me?
But I do see where she's coming from though. I think she should just refer to them as Pika clones, since that's obviously the more correct term.
In fairness to Tamashii, there are other ways to describe Pika clones. Electric rodents, regional critters, Pokemon. The issue with mascot in particular is that it's wrong by definition. And you agreed with that, thus agreeing with perhaps my biggest point in the commentary. So, why was my commentary bad again? Flawed? Sure, I could take that, nothing's perfect. But when you agree with my main point, something that also happened to be a part of Tamashii's criteria, I'm confused.
If she used the term Pika clone instead of mascot, there wouldn't be any problem with her video.
The first 10 seconds of her video would disagree.
Hey Pokemon fans, Tamashii here. But not everyone loves the yellow rodent.
I recall making a point there, and you never covered it. Thus, you've just implied that I was right then, and Tamashii's awkward statement was a problem. Not a video killer, but still a problem. Speaking of which, after the statement, you skip up until the end of the number 4 segment. I had interjections about the possible ideas that Pachirisu represented, what else Gen 6 added, and other things that could be thought of to represent Fairy before Dundana. But that was cut off for some other shit I said. Yay?
Also, why does Pachirisu fail as a Pika clone when it's objectively one of the better ones, as evidenced by the footage of it winning the World Championship in 2014?
Just because someone manages to use a bad Pokemon to beat a big tournament doesn't mean it's not a bad Pokemon anymore. It just means that someone is able to use a bad Pokemon right.
My exact words were one of the better ones. Whether or not Pachirisu was bad is irrelevant to my statement. That said, considering that Pachirisu was the backbone to a team that won a worldwide competitive championship, that indicates to me that it's either not bad, or it's still one of the better clones since no other Pika clone can boast about winning a VTC. In other words, either you're wrong or I'm still right. Pick your poison. I prefer the cherry flavored one, thank you very much.
You're arbitrarily throwing it under the bus because it doesn't have a gimmick.
Yes, she is, and she has a damn good reason too. And I'm sorry to say, but I actually agree with her. I also think that Pachirisu is the most forgettable Pikachu clone.
So is that damn good reason the fact that you also think that Pachirisu is the most forgettable Pika clone? If that's so, then I can just say that Fluxo and Minum are the worst Pikachu clones, say that Pachirisu is actually the best, and call it a day. I mean, that's how this shit works, right? Fuck, I've been doing my job wrong for years. Actually, wasn't I making a point there and you just cut that out?
Even if it still fails as one, remember this?
For the most part, these little guys don't tend to be too popular, since they're pretty redundant by design.
You're arbitrarily throwing it under the bus because it doesn't have a gimmick.
Yeah, way to remove part of why I made that statement just so you can interject with, I'm with Tamashii, fuck you. Bearing in mind that Tamashii's own words devalued these Pokemon from the word go.
I guess if you really want to stretch it, Emolga's name in Japanese is Emanga, and Emon translates into garment or drape, which is a reference to the flaps on its arms, but it could also possibly reference the costumes your Pokemon get to wear in musicals, which are one of the worst parts of Generation 5.
Still something Gen 5 had, thus having something to follow your bullshit criteria.
Except she never said it absolutely is something that Emolga represents. She said that it's one of the possibilities.
Well, I can only take your statement with a grain of salt when you provide no other possibility, and when Tamashii's only other offered possibility is it's black and it's white. While I'm here, I should have addressed this sooner. Excadrill is brown and gray, not black and white. How did you fuck that up? How did I fuck? Why exactly would Emolga not adding anything be a problem anyways? Considering that, by Tamashii's own volition, Gen 5 didn't focus on mechanics and focused more on breaking the mold, wouldn't Emolga adding little in regards to representing mechanics count towards it promoting its generation? That's ignoring how, by having a secondary type, Emolga actually contributes to breaking the mold, since previous Pika clones were pure electric. God damn it, what's with all these electric types and buses? This is not my OTP! Considering that you just skipped a majority of what I covered concerning Emolga and Danta, does that mean that I was right there too, or what?
This generation is only obtainable through breeding. Though I'm not much a fan of baby Pokemon, they were a clever way to introduce players to the new mechanic.
Excuse me, introduce? I'm sorry, but I don't care right now if you find Togepi or Togetic disappointing. If any Pokemon introduced the concept to players, it'd be the first egg you got. That's not Pichu, that's Togepi.
Except in the games, Pokemon Gold and Silver, you are giving the Togepi directly as an egg. So the only thing that you actually learn about breeding is the fact that you have to walk a lot of fucking steps in order for an egg to hatch. Also, I remember back when Generation 2 was the current generation. And I can tell you that back then, Pichu was the most popular baby Pokemon. I mean, hell, it was more popular than Togepi. Thus, her point still stands.
Hey, I remember saying Pichu was the most popular baby Pokemon.
Sure, it's a pre-evolution, and ironically, it's the only Pokemon I see here as an actual mascot for being one of, if not the most popular baby Pokemon, but it's also related to Pikachu.
Yet, that was cut out when you made your commentary. Look, I understand removing portions of a video that you won't cover, but when one of the things you skip over tries arguing a point that you make, that's not being honest with your audience. And what you skipped was also me discussing why Pichu shouldn't even be on Tamashii's list. Another major argument I had. Again, implying that you either didn't have an issue with it or had no way to counter my point, thus implying that she had another severe flaw with her list. So am I right? Then again, more popular or not, I said introducing the concept, which Pichu does not. Even if Togepi doesn't count because it was already received as an egg, then getting 2 Pokemon to breed would introduce it, which is possible as soon as you reach the daycare center. May I add, the Pikachu line is not available by that point, or even before the Elite Four. The only exceptions to that are the Pokewalker for the remakes, and the egg you can receive at the daycare in Crystal, where one of the Pokemon it can hatch into is Pichu, but the latter only reinforces what Togepi taught, and both came after Gold and Silver, where breeding was first possible. Therefore, Tamashii's point is still no because you still need to stretch a lot to argue that Pichu introduced the concept. On top of Pichu not needing to be there in the first place, but that's besides the point.
And the number 1 Pikachu clones are Plusle and Minun.
Your number 1 are 2 Pokemon, for a grand total of 6 Pikachu clones on the list. Take out Pichu and not include Meryl, and you have a top 5. And if anyone tries to argue to Tamashii's praises for Plusle and Minun could be exactly the same and doing 2 separate segments would be redundant, I point to her top 10 worst gym leaders, where she did one segment covering multiple gym leaders, not once, but twice on that list.
But there is a huge difference between that video and the video that you're commenting on. You see those gym leaders on the other list have almost nothing in common, so it makes sense to have them as separate entries.
Did you even watch your gym leaders list?
Number 8, 7, and 6, Byron, Candace, and Volkner. So one of my biggest problems with Diamond and Pearl is that it's paced pretty poorly. It takes, I don't know, like 12 hours between your 3rd and 4th gym badges, and once you get your 4th, it's rapid fire badge after badge after badge until the end of the game, which means the gyms towards the end of the game don't get a chance to stick out much. They're a complete blur to me, which is why I'm putting the 6th through 8th gyms of the game in basically the same spot.
Despite those 3 having different personalities and teams, all 3 were put in one segment, but not one spot. Here, we have multiple Pokemon in one segment, taking up one spot. Yet in both cases, each got the same segment for the same praises or criticisms. This isn't to say that Tamashii absolutely needed to specify which spot either would take. For the sake of consistency, they take 2 separate, albeit consecutive spots on her list.
With Plusle and Minun, it makes more sense that they are at the same entry, since they are for the most part the same fucking Pokemon with minor differences. And the differences are so minor that it wouldn't make sense if those two were in separate entries.
Not true. They may be very alike, but at the end of the day, Plusle and Minun are still two distinct Pokemon. There are still differences, so Tamashii can still have a preference to either one. She could slightly prefer Plusle to Minun, Minun to Plusle, or my preferred choice, kill both and make Delibird number 1.
Trend it.
With Helping Hand and their plus and minus abilities, Plusle and Minun tie everything about Ruby and Sapphire together in one cute package to sell to people.
I'm sorry, but if Plusle and Minun are there to tie up Gen 3 in one package, then Gen 3 must suck. Yes, they're there to promote the concept of double battles, but Gen 3 also had plenty of other duels that could do the concept, and better. For instance, Volbeat and Illumise, Latios and Latias, Solrock and Lunatone.
She never said that Plusle and Minun are great Pokemon to use in double battles.
But she did say they tie up the generation in one cute package. That's saying some lofty shit about two Pokemon that suck.
The point she was trying to make is the fact that Plusle and Minun were very popular back in the day. And since I do remember when the third generation was the current generation, I can confirm that it is indeed accurate. Sure, they were never popular when it came to competitive playing, but design-wise, many people did like those two Pokemon, myself included. And I still like Plusle even to this day.
If you're supposed to take your unproven word to use it to back her up, I guess I could do the same for myself and be completely justified. I remember talking about Pokemon in grade school back when Generation 3 was the newest generation, and I remember hearing about Swampert and Rayquaza and Deoxys and not Plusle or Minun. But why should anyone take our word for how popular they were when Tamashii told us herself?
For the most part, these little guys don't tend to be too popular, since they're pretty redundant by design.
Even though she provided no proof herself, the person you are trying to prove right is going against your point. Somebody is wrong here, and it's either you or her. Take your pick.
Even the colors, Ruby and Sapphire. Unfortunately for a lot of people, it was just too different, with the bright palettes that could support a lot of different colors and the new gimmicks, so these mascots weren't very popular with a lot of people.
And personally, I believe Tamashii had the popularity more than you.
Oh, there's far more than just that. Nothing about how they're literally just Pikachu, but with red and blue instead of black? How about the fact that without double battles, they absolutely suck? Their abilities only work when the other's on the field, and without the other, they are weak and they can't do anything. At least the other duels don't need the other member to work in doubles. And that's even implying they'd actually work, since Plusle and Minun are very susceptible to a very powerful and very common double battle move, Earthquake.
Look, Master Tibetan, I know that you're very passionate about Pokemon competitive battling, but there is a time and place to talk about stuff like that.
I might have given this point some credence if you let the entire clip play first.
Even Pokemon who'd get plus or minus later on get this massive weakness too. And the fact that you need another Pokemon with a specific ability makes plus and minus extremely cancerous as abilities.
Then again, my original point was considering other reasons as to why Plusle and Minun weren't popular. The competitive scene may not be the biggest venue Pokemon has, but it's still there. That's ignoring how Earthquake exists outside competitive play too. I'll grant you that I could have brought up something less specific and more general in order to sound less like a rub on Smoggy way too much, but bringing up that Plusle and Minun are weak to Earthquake is not just the competitive side of me talking. It's me stating a fact. But on the note of more general arguments, let's try bringing some up. Just gotta switch avatars for a second. There we go. Let's start with this. Well, most people want to pick up Plusle or Minun over any other electric type in Hoenn. Ignoring that they already look like another electric type you can catch, the pure electric types are all faster and are part of their offenses and defenses at worst. The dual electric types have better defensive stats and typings, and all of them have better move pools. Yes, you can work with virtually any Pokemon during a playthrough, but that doesn't suddenly make them better options, just different. And I could throw that at the other Pika clones as well. That said, the other Pokemon in this content have other reasons for use as well. Imoga and Dandana have respective immunities to ground and dragon, Pichu can evolve, and even Pachirisu has Super Fang, an attack that halves the HP of the opponent, and Pickup, an ability that can score you free items after a battle, with better items appearing the higher its level. Plusle and Minun have only their double battle exclusive gimmick, and that would still require you to catch both. Also, ground types. Virtually any of them can beat Plusle and Minun, since ground is immune to their electric attacks. And if you're fighting either one in-game, the only way they can damage a ground type is through normal type attacks, which didn't benefit from Plusle or Minus in Gen 3. What hurts them even more is that one of your potential starters in Hoenn, the starter that's otherwise naturally weak to electric, can evolve into a ground type. So even in spite of the abundance of ground types in the region already, you don't have to go out of your way to get one. It's right there.
And this is not the time to do that. Because Tamashii never said that Plushel and Minun are great Pokemon competitively.
But she did mention before that Pachirisu won a world championship, so bringing up a mostly competitive situation really does not help her case. Neither does Tamashii having a history of looking at the competitive side of Pokemon. See her Mega Evolutions list. Also, Tamashii's point was bringing up only one reason as to why Plushel and Minun were unpopular. One reason that I've heard no one really complain about. And once more, my point was bringing up more reasons, ones I've actually heard or had, as to avoid underselling their flaws. And if anyone wants to say she'd just be adding fluff if she added those points, well, it wouldn't be the first time in the video she did that, and unlike the first time, there's more relevance here than bringing up a Pokemon who was otherwise completely irrelevant to the video.
But I do still admire how committed to their concept they were. Game Freak really believed in the game they were making, and celebrated those games full out when designing Plushel and Minun. So to me, they're the epitome of Pokemon mascots.
Even if we just considered Plushel and Minun the best Pika clones, that's all they'd be. Pika clones.
Again, she never said they were great Pokemon competitively, thus making her point irrelevant.
Says the person trying to say I shouldn't talk competitively when the argument he cut away from was about how Plushel and Minun weren't the mascots of Generation 3. Something I would have said even if they were competitively viable. Also, you want to claim that my point was irrelevant, yet you also want to defend the 45 seconds from the beginning that could have been taken out and changed nothing but the video's length. The thing that was worse than my alleged irrelevant point. And if I can go back to the original video one more time. Epitome of Pokemon mascots. This was said in the same video named after the face of Pokemon and in the same franchise as Charizard, Mewtwo, Lucario, Greninja, Rayquaza, Eevee, Jigglypuff. I swear I was going somewhere with this. Blaze, I seriously do not understand how the only flaw you said her list had was her overuse of the term mascot, when, if nothing else, Tamashii's script had more than just that.
And that's it. This has been Looking Too Deep When the Curtains Are Literally Just Blue, the countdown. You stretched so much to try and find something that these Pokemon seemingly needed to have, when in all actuality, all they needed to be in order to be good Pika clones is, well, to be good.
That's the point of the video. She is trying to look very deep into those Pokemon. I mean, she is analyzing those Pokemon after all.
So why not analyze them in battle? Small of a part as it might be, that's still something one could say about the Pokemon. She did bring up the VGCs, and it's not like she said anything to the contrary about it. Oh, but I guess that doesn't count, but the anime does, despite the fact that she used it a grand total of once, and using either more would go against her number one choices being number one.
Now it's time for my overall thoughts. This commentary was pretty bad. It seemed to me like you had to prove Tamashii wrong because it's fucking Tamashii. And that's the biggest problem I have with this commentary.
I'll just use this last comment to transition to the final thoughts. And why not? Let's use the music from the video Blaze covered as the backing to this. Bear with me for just a moment and pretend that the person who made the Pikachu clones list wasn't Tamashii Hiroka, but someone else. A brand into the past, Tricky Wii, or Yizo, NES Mario 123, I don't fucking care, just as long as it's not Tamashii. And my commentary on the video reflected the change in name and pronouns. My video would change in 3 places, and only one of them, my point about Tamashii's inconsistency between her worst gym leaders list and this one, was shown during her commentary, or could be described as an actual point against Tamashii's video. In contrast, one of the first things you said in your commentary was how Tamashii's video wasn't even that bad, and so much of what you brought up hinged on Tamashii or her opinion to exist. What if you liked Pachirisu the most instead of calling it the most forgettable? What would happen if the video maker wasn't Tamashii, or if Tamashii or her substitute weren't popular? Would that make the Clefairy point lose the one thing it had going for it, that being Tamashii's subscriber and view count? What if you also considered her video bad? Whether I made a commentary on Tamashii because it was Tamashii or not, one could very easily say the same of you. This wouldn't even be that big of an issue if you focused more on combating my points and trying to debunk them, but that didn't happen. You focused more on agreeing with Tamashii and skipping plenty of the comments I made, including comments that would argue against you. At the very least though, I can see where you're coming from with your title. Though I wanted to cover the disappointing Pokemon list she was a part of for reasons that didn't primarily include her, that doesn't change the fact that at this point, I've done 5 commentaries on videos by or featuring Tamashii. Don't worry, I can understand why someone might be disenchanted by me covering someone so many times. I guess the real problem I have with this is implying it affects the quality of the video. When you call a commentary bad, yet one of your first and main issues is something that should matter very little to the overall quality of the video, even if that complaint was valid, it doesn't bode well for the rest of your complaints. Considering that many of your critiques amount to flinging shit onto the wall and hoping that something would stick, yeah, that doesn't speak highly of your video. I'm not saying you couldn't dislike or have faults with my commentary, that's fine, but your motivation for doing the commentary shouldn't stem from, hey, I kinda like that video. If you have to rely on such a trivial issue to try and debunk someone's claims, might I suggest trying something else? Wait, how's that supposed to work on this commentary if my computer got busted into crash?
Juneau's in Alaska, and there's Lincoln in Nebraska, and it's Raleigh out in North Carolina, and then there's Madison, Wisconsin, and Olympia in Washington, Phoenix,
I'll worry
Arizona,
about it later.
and Lansing, Michigan. Here's Honolulu, Hawaii's a joy, Jackson, Mississippi, and Springfield, Illinois, South Carolina with Columbia down the way, and Annapolis in Maryland on Chesapeake Bay.
God damn it!